It was in 1824 that a young Quaker named John Cadbury opened a grocery shop in Birmingham. His first product range included tea and coffee, but was soon extended to a chocolate-based beverage, which he advertised Cocoa Nibs, an article offering a most nutritious beverage for breakfast. Common cocos at that time were balanced with potato starch and sago to absorb excess cocoa butter. But John Cadbury's sons, Richard and George, introduced a press to extract some of that cocoa butter, improving the taste by eliminating the need for additives. The new Cadbury's Cocoa Essence was born and advertised as absolutely pure, therefore best. Over the next few years, with the launch of many chocolate products, their business was so successful that they soon outgrew their Birmingham factory. And in 1879, they found a site outside the city by the little River Bourne. It had a canal to bring in raw ingredients and a railway to dispatch finished goods, and they called it Bourneville. Cadbury's Dairy Milk Chocolate was launched from here in 1905. In 1919, the Cadbury business merged with J.S. Fry's in Bristol, who had a long history of successful chocolate products. Fry's Crunchy was launched in 1929 before manufacturing moved to a greenfield site at Somerdale between Bristol and Bath. Chocolate begins life as cocoa beans. Cocoa trees flourish in tropical climates, West Africa, South and Central America. The very best quality beans come from Ghana on the west coast of Africa. After harvesting, sun-dried cocoa beans travel by sea to the UK. Every month, 4,500 tons of these top-grade beans arrive at Cadbury's factory at Chirk in the Welsh borders. The chocolate-making process begins with what is called kibbling and winnowing to produce nibs of clean, pure cocoa. These nibs are ground into a thick, creamy paste, cocoa mass. Cocoa mass is mixed with two other essential ingredients that make that unique Cadbury taste: sugar and milk. Only the best quality milk is used. And there is the sugar. 80,000 tons of cane sugar and beet sugar from a host of English farms. Here at Marlbrook, the smooth, creamy Cadbury's chocolate taste begins. The cocoa mass, sugar and fresh milk are brought together in a gradual cooking process. Then it's dried to form the basic ingredient for that famous Cadbury's taste called chocolate crumb. This is carefully tested and sampled to ensure consistent quality and transported to Bourneville or Somerdale, where the complex process of making chocolate continues.
The crumb which arrives at our factory in Bourneville is essentially, it's nearly chocolate, so it's basically chocolate without the cocoa butter added to it. Now the first process is to try and get that crumb to the right size. That may sound strange, but there is a thing called a unique chocolate particle size, and if that chocolate particle size is too large, obviously you get a sort of gritty, sandy type of chocolate. But conversely, if that chocolate particle size is too small, then you'll get a greasy, slimy chocolate, and that's not pleasant either. What you're looking for is a chocolate particle size which is just right, so that when you eat it and it melts in your mouth, there should be some resistance as you push it around your mouth with your tongue. The first element here is to mill it. We're taking the chocolate crumb and we're milling it between two steel mills. The steel mills are calibrated so that the crumb which is milled is exactly the right chocolate particle size, and the finished product, the finished crumb paste, looks much finer and is perfectly suitable now to be mixed in with the cocoa butter. The next process is that the crumb is mixed in and blended and tempered with the cocoa butter which has arrived from Chirk, and you have chocolate. To ensure that there are no large particle sizes left, the chocolate is effectively sieved. It's put into some giant vibrating sieves and is shaken, and the chocolate goes through the sieve, and any large particles sizes left are collected by the sieve. This is pure Cadbury dairy milk chocolate. The chocolate is now ready to be deposited into the moulds. Exactly the right amount of chocolate is put into the moulds, and the moulds are then shaken. They're shaken for two reasons. One, obviously, is to level out the chocolate, but secondly, they're shaken to ensure that no air bubbles are trapped within the chocolate, so that when you bite into your bar of chocolate, you don't feel cheated. After shaking, the bars are cooled down very slowly over a period of about 30 to 40 minutes. If you cool them down too quickly, the bars would be covered in that white discoloration which we call bloom, chocolate bloom, which is, although harmless, just doesn't look very nice. And after that point, they emerge as perfect chocolate bars with that lovely glossy sheen on the surface. The chocolate bars pass under a metal check, and this can detect anything as small as an iron filing. The bars move along a track and are put along one of 3 packing lines. This is to ensure that if one of the packing lines runs out, there is always at least 1 or 2 which are operating to ensure that the factory works efficiently. Each bar is then weighed and counted by infrared counters, and if the bar doesn't weigh what it says on the pack, then a jet of air will immediately blow it down into a reject bin, so that you know when you open a bar of chocolate and it says it's got 250 grams of chocolate inside, it's got 250 grams of chocolate inside it. These days, Cadbury's chocolate is wrapped in what we call flow wrap, and this is a metallic thin layer of wrapping which protects the chocolate and keeps it fresh. As late as the year 2000, chocolate was being wrapped in what we called foil and band, that's silver foil with a paper band around it. These days it's cheaper, it's more efficient, and it's fresher to wrap it in flow wrap. The wrappers are then closed using heat seals. Although chocolate manufacture is fully automated, it does require staff to monitor the computers, and these days staff at Cadbury tend to be computer literate, so it isn't simply a matter of packing the bars into boxes. They will be familiar with computer equipment and will be monitoring it at all times to ensure that it works efficiently. So although computers are making the chocolate, we still do need people to make sure that the process runs efficiently. The final stage of the process is that the bars are then put into boxes, or as we call them, outers of chocolate. Suction pads will pick up the bar from the line and will deposit it neatly into the outer before moving on to the next outer. These outers are then sealed and sent off to our warehouse, where they're either distributed to supermarkets directly, or they'll go to wholesalers where the local corner shop can go along and buy their supply of Cadbury dairy milk. Chocolate has a shelf life, and like any food product, we always say that it's best before a certain date. In chocolate's case, it's a remarkably robust food, so we give it a 12-month shelf life, although in reality most of it is eaten by the public well before that point. There is a date stamp put on the wrapper that tells you the date when that particular bar of chocolate was made. Here we see two chocolate bars which have overlapped on the belt. Now the machine will think that bar of chocolate is too large. It doesn't weigh exactly what it should do, so immediately a jet of air blows it off, rejects it, and we carry on with the process. And we can see that again in slow motion. The bars you see here are the standard bar, as we'd call it. It's the 6-chunk 49-gram bar, which is one of the most popular lines of Cadbury dairy milk. Cadbury dairy milk comes in a range of sizes, from a very small square of chocolate, we would call that a Neapolitan, that you may find in your collection of roses, right up to huge 1-kilogram bars which are given at Christmas time or Father's Day as special gifts. The Bourneville factory in Birmingham manufactures around about 1 million, 1.5 million bars of Cadbury dairy milk every single day. Outers of chocolate which will be seen in the shops will have the name printed on the side of them, but where the chocolate doesn't necessarily need to be seen by the public or by the shopkeeper, perhaps in vending or perhaps in the restaurant trade, then it will be packed into plain white outers. The outers are then taken away to be loaded onto pallets, and these pallets are sealed in cling film and loaded onto the back of trucks, where they're taken off primarily to our distribution warehouse in the north of Birmingham, where they will then find their way onto the shops and the supermarkets across the country.